Chris Klieman and Kyle Whittingham both shed tears at their post-game press conferences after a crazy 51-47 win for Kyle Whittingham in Utah in comeback fashion. It's led to a lot of speculation, a lot of question. Are these guys retiring? What's happening here? What's behind all of this? Let's start with Chris Klieman and K-State. Okay, let's start with Chris Klieman and K-State because obviously this hits more home for me. I have seen all the conversation about this. I weighed in on it a bit on the 3 Mile postgame show. Have not even stepped into it on social media because I think the discussion with everything happening around Chris Klieman's press conference and where he's at, I think a lot of it is just not nuanced nearly enough because there's a lot going on here. Okay, so the clip started to go around. Chris Klieman tearing up, getting very emotional, clearly just very bothered by some things that have been happening, and unloaded it in this post-game press conference scenario. So here's just a little cut up of Chris Klieman, a couple of the main clips that you're seeing go around about what he said to the media after the game.
Good. Understand. We got your back. Got your back. Okay? Don't worry about it.
We're down so many players. And I know a lot of people thought we'd come over here and lay down. And that maybe the kids had cashed it in because I've heard it enough. I've cashed it in. I've heard the players have cashed it in. We need to get new leadership here. We need to get new players, new coaches. I'm tired of it. I gotta be honest with you, I'm tired of it. I've given my friggin' ass life for this place for 7 years. I've given everything for 7 years. And I think I deserve a little bit of respect. Because I'm frustrated like everybody else is, but I love those kids. I'm gonna go friggin' battle with those kids.
All right, that gives you a pretty good idea of what was going on there. There was also a moment where a reporter asked him, "Hey, what has you so emotionally charged here?" And he said, "You guys know." He just repeated, like, "You guys know, you guys know." And I know I got people in my DMs asking me from across the league, like, what is that exactly in reference to? I will get to that here. I think a lot of that is about Colin Klein being out there, potentially getting a head coaching job this offseason, and him being the apple of many K-State fans' eyes right now, while Chris Klieman obviously is still occupying this job. So there's just so much to unpack here with this, and this is what's frustrating is I see a lot of the discussion around this turning immediately to the fans that are very upset about where things are at and are just like, be tougher, forget this, screw this guy. And then the other side, which is people just jumping to like, you people are all crazy for thinking that, anything's wrong here. Like, this is our guy. You better support him or you're a bad fan. I mean, it turns into that, right? This requires a lot of nuance to break down. So there's been a lot of heat this year. I mean, for one, I think people need to understand, like, it's been a miserable season if you're a K-State fan. They're 5-6. The coaches picked them to win the league this year. The unofficial media poll picked them to win the league. They were, in effect, the preseason favorite to win the conference this year, and they are 5-6. The season started with yet another loss to Iowa State, which, Matt Campbell has now been dominating that rivalry lately. That happened in front of a national TV audience. Some people were mad about playing that game in Ireland in the first place. So that's the jumping off point for this season. You have drama with Dylan Edwards. You have drama with Avery Johnson's family after the game, right? Then in September, I mean, the 3 games K-State played in September, there's no escaping it. They looked like one of, if not the worst Power 4 team in the country. They needed a last-minute heroic drive to beat North Dakota, and they played A horrific game against Arizona. I know Arizona wound up being pretty good. I don't think Arizona was a great team at that point, hadn't grown into it yet. And oh, by the way, K-State lost to Army, right? What program with expectations of winning a Power Four league this year would go through that and not have a bunch of heat coming from fans? Like, of course that happened. You also have fans realizing like a lot of resources have been put into this roster. I mean, this is not like a Texas Tech level roster, but there was decent money put into this roster and this class of recruits that K-State has had, particularly Avery Johnson, the Avery Johnson era. There have been high expectations for this group, right? They were considered huge recruiting wins. Avery Johnson, Dylan Edwards, Jace Brown, Garrett Oakley. Most of these guys, big recruiting wins or developed like Jace Brown into studs. And it was like, hey, you've got this group, man. You sent Will Howard packing for Avery Johnson. And last year, mildly disappointing. Now this year has turned into a very disappointing group with all of these. And fans feel like, man, we thought this was going to be the step up and elevating the program, and now it's taken a step back. The other part of this is fans are acutely aware, very aware of what's going on with Colin Klein right now. Whether it's going to be the Oklahoma State job or not, which it might be if you're reading some of the tea leaves right now, he's probably going to get a Power Four job this offseason. That is prodigal son, obviously beloved. He helped K-State win a Big 12 championship when he was the offensive coordinator in 2022. And I think people view him like, hey, this is our shot at getting a Kenny Dillingham here, a great coach, young, up and coming, cut out for this right now, and he might stay around long term because he loves this place. So you combine that with a slide from Klieman here this year, and fans get really antsy. Like, hey, we're going to miss the boat on this. And I think a lot of fans have felt like, hey, does Klieman really still have the fire in him right now to do this? Is this still the dude? It long has been talked about in K-State circles that Chris Klieman doesn't want to be like Bill Snyder, coaching into his late 70s and 80s and all of that. So people immediately jump to like, well, hey, what about retiring? And then we go get Colin Klein, and it's perfect. Like there's been a lot of chatter among fans with that. I'm sure there has been some of that with donors as well. And I think like that's a lot of what Chris Klieman is hearing right now. And that's what he's taken a lot of offense to, I would have to imagine, is this idea that like, hey man, I won a Big 12 championship here. 5 of the 7 seasons I've been here, we've won at least 8 games. You're really not going to respect me enough to just say, hey, like one bad year here, one slide here, and you're going to kick me to the curb for a guy that's never been a head coach before. I think that's a lot of the basis of what's coming out there in that press conference, combined with, hey, we just went out against one of the better defenses in the country and a borderline top 10 team and set a school record for rushing and broke Darren Sproul's individual rushing record. Well, half of our roster, like many of the best players, are out. I mean, I'm still astounded by what they did to Utah. I have no idea how that happened. Even if Utah was loafing it a bit, I have no idea how they did that. Absolutely no idea. So it's all that. Like, I get where the emotion comes from. And that's where, for sure, the human side of me, like, understands the human reaction that Chris Klieman had there. He's looking at this like, guys, I put a trophy in the trophy case. Bill Snyder won 2 of those things. I've got 1. I've only been here 7 years. We've won 8+ games in 5 of those 7 years. Like, you guys are all bailing on me now, saying that I can't do this anymore. And taking shots at the team, right? Like my players, Avery Johnson's taking a lot of heat this year, this whole team. And we just went out and got that close to pulling off this huge win and then had the rug ripped out from under us. Like, I understand how that emotion comes pouring out there. I for sure do, man. I'm an emotional dude. I'm kind of an emotions on my sleeve sort of a guy. And being someone who's been in public spotlight a little bit, like very, very minor compared to Chris Klieman, obviously, but like people say things, it's hard to ignore. It's hard to ignore sometimes. You guys have seen me react to comments, right? So I understand it's a little bit like glass house if I'm going to levy a ton of criticism here. But I think the flip side to that is I think there is some legitimate reason to wonder if Chris Klieman can get the program back to a level of being able to compete for a Big 12 championship, especially with the current financial constraints I think that K-State is operating with. I think they have dragged their feet a bit on where they need to be from an NIL standpoint this year, at least, because there was this thought, oh, well, the CSC is just going to shut down anything above the cap. All of that, I think, is legitimate reason for concern. I think a lot has changed in college football, even since 2022, when Chris Klieman last won a Big 12 championship. I think there's reason to wonder if he can get that back going. I think he's going to have to make changes on his staff to do that. And we've seen most of the hires that he has made, not all, but most, be pretty safe promoting guys internally or from his immediate network. And they've been kind of bland. If we're being honest, they've just been kind of bland. Now, he promoted Colin Klein, give him credit for that, but Colin Klein was right in his lap. And that was when they had the best stretch that they had, was with Colin Klein running the offense. And now he's about to be a head coach somewhere. Outside of that, it's not gone super well. Last year, we can have a debate about Connor Riley. It's not gone well this year with Matt Wells, which was a predictable hire. That was one of Chris Kleiman's best friends across the conference. So I share concern, as I'm sure a lot of K-State fans do. Who are you going to hire? How are you going to rejuvenate this thing? How are you going to fix this up? Especially if money's a little bit of a concern, right? There's kind of a dual layered piece of this to why there would be legitimate concerns. So I think you can be a fan and respect what Chris Klieman has done while still having legitimate concerns about, in this era and how much the sport has changed in the last couple of years, do you have what it takes to get it back to a level where you can be going and playing in a Big 12 championship game, which is what the fan base, I think, fairly expects that you should be able to do at least every couple of years. And you should be in the ballpark of competing for that, close to year in and year out, I think is the general expectation here. I would also just say, I wonder a little bit about getting too bogged down by the stuff that you hear, the outside noise that you hear, and the stuff that coaches always say players have to block that out. I mean, Manhattan is not a big media market. This is not a place where you're getting pushed. Like, look at Lincoln Riley. Like, Lincoln Riley got asked a question about a fan having a sign at College Game Day, and he's popping off at somebody. Like, there is a lot more pressure at big SEC jobs or really any SEC job or big Big Ten jobs. Like, you're going to get hit with a lot of this anywhere that you're at in Power 4 football. But I think Manhattan and K-State and that media market, something I was a part of for a long time, it's on the lower end of, what's going to be really harsh and prodding and stuff. So I do think at some point you have to just kind of realize, like, hey, we had a really bad season with a pretty good roster and a team that was supposed to be really good. So that's where I'm at on this. I have concerns about what he's going to do with the coaching staff, his ability to hire a staff that can elevate this team. I have some concerns about what does talent acquisition look like now in this era with the way that the sport has changed the last couple of years. I have concerns with, can you be more consistent with getting that type of an effort that you just got at Utah? Because total opposite ends of the spectrum. That Utah game could not be more polar opposite from like the effort that we saw against North Dakota and Arizona at the beginning of the year. How are you having a season where the swings are that wild? Is part of that NIL and what kids are thinking, and you're having a harder time dealing? Like, I don't know what it is, but I know that I've seen a total variance in that. Can you figure that out? And I just worry a little bit if this type of noise is getting to you that much. Maybe it is that it just shows some fire and you still got enough fire in you to go get it done and figure it out. I can understand feeling disrespected by people wanting a younger, newer model in your place there and somebody that used to coach under you. I totally get it. But I do have some worry about where this program is going. So that's kind of my nuanced take on it. And I don't think it has to be like one or the other. Now, as for the retirement piece of this, which I mentioned earlier, like people thinking, well, he's never been a guy that wants to coach for a really long time, they'll just retire. I don't think that's happening at all. Like, I think if anything, this press conference shows you like he's very fired up about the idea that people think he doesn't have it anymore and wants to prove that wrong. And I mean, his athletic director, Gene Taylor, literally walked up to the mic at one point in that clip you saw and said, like, you're going to be back next year. Obviously the AD's got his back. Like, I would not be putting a ton of hope in that basket if you're a fan that is like really hoping for a retirement or something. I don't think that's happening. So I would prepare yourself for that. But I have some legitimate concerns, and I think it's fair to have some legitimate concerns, and it doesn't mean that you're disrespecting Chris Klieman's accomplishments. So after the dust is settled, I know that's not like a real hot take on the situation, but I think this is what it requires. I think this is layered. I think there's a lot going on. So that's the K-State half of it. Okay. That's the K-State half of it.